Hey there, hi, welcome to the channel. I am Garrett, and in this video, we are talking about some of the biggest trends. And I wanna know, was your home marked safe from them or not? Some of these trends are great. Some of them could use a little bit of love and a little bit of work, and we're gonna talk about it. I'm gonna share my opinions and what you have shared with me as well. And you can sound off in the comment section down below if you fell victim to any of these trends and whether you liked it or not. So let's get into it. Now, the first trend we have to talk about is one that was like a plague on the design community, and that is the farmhouse style. We love a real, authentic farmhouse. And we love, like the concept, the idea of it, and everything is wonderful. But the farmhouse style was basically like, let's live in a barn, honey. Like, let's make the house look like a barn, like corrugated metal. Like, let's take the laminate flooring as an accent wall and like make it look like fake rustic wood. What was going on? What was going on? And you know what? One of my first big videos I made on YouTube, one of the first one that was copied multiple times as well, but we're not gonna talk about that, was fixing farmhouse, how to take your farmhouse design and make it more elevated. Okay, I set the standard and the stage for how to elevate your home, and I love that for me and for you. Farmhouse can be really good, and it's one of the first like modern sort of styles we've seen in the last maybe like 10 to 15 years that actually moved from being just this like decorative detail into an actual architectural style with the modern farmhouse. That's not terrible though. Like, the actual like kind of caricature of farmhouse vibes or like farm living is a little, that's a little bit of a gray area. I'm not gonna get too much into that, but seeing it transform into an actual architectural style, I like that. I think that's actually really interesting and very cool. And the good thing about it is that those homes tend to just be like very square, very blocky, very black and white vibes. And so they're easily adapted into other styles or elevated into something that feels more intentional. Now, what I will say is that if you have that like quintessential farmhouse style interior of your home, we need to think about streamlining that. And how do we get a little bit of that out of there? Because a lot of what happened is, it was like agricultural inspiration. And so, I literally had a client whose island in her kitchen was wrapped in corrugated metal. And she was like, I don't know what to do about this. Like, how do you overcome this? And so streamlining some of that and pulling it back a little bit is a good way to move forward. A lot of the colors were very intense in the farmhouse style. So streamlining those, choosing some softer tones is a good way to build a solid foundation to then elevate on top of. And I think that is the good thing about farmhouse. At least it was like different. It was challenging the perspective of what interiors could be. And so I applaud an adventurous spirit when it comes to decorating. Maybe it always doesn't land exactly how we want it to, but at least you tried, and I respect that. Another design trend, a style we have to talk about, conversation has to be had about, because I've seen quite a few comments about it come up recently, which I find to be interesting, is Tuscan. It was everywhere. If you did a renovation on your house from like 2000, 2003 up until 2008, it was probably Tuscan. Like, that was just what everyone was doing. I can't tell you the number of homes I've seen or clients who have come to me and said, Garrett, I have a Tuscan kitchen in my colonial house and I don't like it. It doesn't make sense. Or like, Garrett, we want something more modern. How do we work with this? But the thing about Tuscan design that you have to remember, almost all of it was really good quality. We're talking real wood, natural stone, be it like travertine or granite. There was that one that's like ubu dubu. I don't know, the green kind of granite, you know what I'm talking about. All of it was like a real material and actually very good. And we saw a lot of like knockdown texture on walls or like hand trowel texture. This is where we saw a lot of the like faux painting, which, whether you like faux painting or not is actually kind of relevant because it is a hand done technique, okay? So much Venetian plaster, which is incredibly expensive, right? So a lot of Tuscan design is good quality. What we're seeing now is this rise in sort of new Tuscan or modern Tuscan design. Now, when you see anything for sale, like if you want a spacious home that has, maybe like a nice backyard, a pool and all of that stuff here in Vegas, a lot in California, chances are it's gonna be a Tuscan home because there's so many of them that were built so rapidly and quickly, and you just get a lot of house for what you're spending on it today. Right? If you want a quick move in, like that's what it's going to be. So where does the new Tuscan or modern Tuscan come from? a lot of millennials who are buying houses now are like, hey, we can get this house. It's big. It's a good deal. What can we do to renovate it, keep the good quality stuff, but then turn it into something we actually like? We reimagine the style and reinterpret it. So what does that even mean and what does it look like? You might take some of the details of Tuscan design, like if you're renovating a Tuscan home, do an oversized plaster vent hood, soften the color of the walls to an alabaster-like color. Maybe we swap out some of the light fixtures for some like hand-forged antique or vintage wrought iron pieces and fixtures like that that feel really intentional. And then we start looking at the furniture we're bringing in. We look for streamlined shapes to the actual pieces, right? With Tuscan design, it was like this big, ornate, curved, oversized furniture and all of the heavy details. It was giving like dungeon, okay? That was the vibe. Well, instead, we're looking more towards that like California coastal style to brighten things up and soften and lighten them, which really elevates a lot of the architectural details that were put into a lot of these Tuscan homes. So that's sort of where New Tuscan is taking off from. I haven't talked about it much because we're still seeing it become what it is, and we're seeing it, you know, the elevation of it and what's happening in that space as it grows. And so this is going to be a big trend for 2027, but we're just not quite there yet. If you're in the space, you have a Tuscan home and you want to update it, you want some renovation details or ideas, honey, this is my bread and butter, okay? Because this is Vegas, this is what we do here. We update those homes in an elevated way. In every home, I've got the details for you. So no matter what you're doing in your home, whether you're just picking out some basic furniture, some decor, some light fixtures or artwork, or you're looking for a paint color, you're renovating, you want to redo the whole space, I've got you covered. I have the details for you. Before you go and put all of that time, effort, and money into those renovations, get a little bit of feedback to make sure you're going to be happy with what comes out at the end. Book a consultation with me using the link in the description box down below, or go to intro.co/GarrettLeChic. And you can take me around your house, you can give me a tour, you can show me whatever, you can introduce me to your dogs and your family, and I would love to meet them, okay? And I'll see you there. Another big trending style that I want to know where you marked safe from is mid-century. Now, I love mid-century as much as the next person. Like, there's a super, super valid place for it. So I'm not gonna sit here and just bash it and be like, no, that was a trend you have to get rid of. Yeah, it could look a little like a time capsule if we overdo it. But that's the whole thing, is you have to be really intentional when you're using any design style, and you have to figure out, how do we take this and make it timeless for our home? I have a ton of clients actually, and I will tell you, every time I work with someone who's maybe like in a professional field, a doctor, a lawyer, someone like that, they tend to like mid-century because it has very streamlined shapes and good structure, and there is, you know, a lot of analytical mindset, and that aligns itself with mid-century for whatever reason. It's just something I personally notice. But the question is, how do we make that fit into their space? Because if you don't have a mid-century home, we do have to do a little bit of work to curate and elevate what's happening in the rest of the space to make it align with that style. The other thing I do a lot of times is we try to infuse a little bit of that modern mid-century detail into other spaces, because when we mix different styles together, whether it's a little traditional, a little postmodern, a little mid-century, a little farmhouse, just saying that, you end up with something that feels very curated. So it always feels very timeless because it feels very personal. It looks like the people that live there, which inherently means timeless design. Now, the biggest thing I will say about mid-century is to be careful that you're not just using these like famous pieces, okay, design pieces from, you know, like the case study houses and everything in your home, because it could feel like a furniture museum. It could feel like a showroom of all of the best design. And you, not to say you can't do that, but look at those pieces and then say, okay, what's the detail we're gonna bring into this space that pulls it all together? Is it the paint color? We're gonna go dark and moody, a little bit handsome. Mid-century furniture inherently leads a little bit masculine in its nature. And so leaning into that dark, moody vibe could be a really, really good way to pull the space together. Look for a rug that has an interesting pattern on it, like very geometric, something a little more graphic, could be so cool. And if you wanna brighten that up and modernize it, make it actually have a little bit of a softer feel, you go for a solid color rug and a neutral color. And by neutral, I mean something earth tone. So you could even do like a chartreusey kind of a green, something a little mossy. You could do a camel, you could do a brown, something along those lines. Great, excellent, would love to see that in those spaces. Now, no matter what your style is or what your design ability is, I have got the tips and the advice and the answers for you. So be sure you take a moment, hit the subscribe button, become a part of our LeChic family. 2 videos a week, every week, all about interior design and how to elevate your home. Take it from something that is just normal or average or okay into something that is truly great, reflective of you, and beautiful. I've got the tips for you. So hit the subscribe button, pull out your smartphone, scan this QR code. It will take you to my channel page. Much easier to subscribe that way, especially if you're watching me on television. And you can leave a comment and tell me how good I look on the big screen, but that's also beside the point. Be sure while you're subscribing, you have your bell notifications turned on. You give this video a like and give it a little bit of hype to get it shared across the platform, because we all know someone who needs a little bit of assistance in the decor and decorating department. It would not be a video about decorating and design trends if we didn't talk about organic modern. That is one of the biggest trends right now, probably in the last 5 years, was organic modern. Still is. A lot of my clients love it, and I work in that style a lot. A lot of people think that just because, you know, oh, I might have something that's a little more traditional, like, oh, you have a little sculpture, you have a little vase of flowers, whatever, you like traditional design. I'm actually talented, okay? I work in every style. I do all of it, and I've got all of the answers. Literally, any style you can think of, I work in. And some of my top clients love organic modern. And we bring those details into a space because it's super transitional and we can really work around it. Now, organic modern started off as this sort of like minimalist vibe with postmodern styling details and cues, and it was like everything is going to be beige and white, and then, you know, we're going to have vessels everywhere and call ourselves minimalist. The reason I use organic modern, and the reason I like it, is because it inherently lends itself towards using color. It works so beautifully to blend organic and natural earthy tones in with things that are a little bit more fun and we can play around with. And the other great part about organic modern is that we can make a space that feels really decadent and very layered and very sophisticated without it feeling fussy, without it feeling traditional. We can still have this modern sensibility of like a new lifestyle, like just elevated and gorgeous in this style. And when I use it, I always like to use a combination of different materials and different textures. There's just so much you can bring into this. And then we can make throwbacks to other design styles as well. And it might be like in a wood tone or in the stone material or a detail. We can use mid-century. We can use a little bit of that like cottage style in this space to really create something that is interesting. You can mix all sorts of artwork into it. Organic modern is proving to be a timeless design style, in my opinion. And honestly, I think that you have some of the traditional styles that I do really like, that I think are really elevated and wonderful. And then there's only a handful of the modern ones that I think will actually be long lasting. I think mid-century is one that is obviously proven to be, and I think organic modern is going to be that next one that we really see so much elevated, and it's going to be long term. It looks good long term, in my opinion. So that's why I'm okay with doing so much of it for my clients, because there's so much room there to do something that's personal, that's interesting and elevated, not just cookie cutter and basic, like you bought it out of a catalog or you just ordered the pieces online. There's a lot of accessibility in this, a lot of access to the pieces in this style, but there is a lot of room for personalization, and that always gains my respect in any style out there, because genuinely your home will always feel timeless if it always reflects you and you do it in the best way with the best intention possible. And organic modern is one of the styles that is easiest to do that in. Now, the hottest trend of the last maybe 2 years. I will say organic modern from the last 5 to 6 years. Okay, like it's really started in 2019, 2020. The last maybe 2 years has been a cottage inspired style. And there's a couple of ways you can lean into that. And if we look at like some of the biggest trends we've seen over the last year even, all of them come back to the cottage style and even English cottage interiors. Talking about English, we have a fine little English gentleman here. It's so beautiful. Oh, Arden, do you have anything to say about this? No, he just said you can get me a treat if you want, and maybe I'll have an opinion to make on it, but otherwise, no. You're so beautiful. So beautiful. You see why the English style is so like on trend right now, how everybody wants it, because, gorgeous. Stunning. Okay. All right. He's tired. He wants a nap. But, You know, some of us are covered in fur and other people are wearing jackets, so it's a little warm in here right now under the studio light, so I'm gonna let you lay right there. This style has inspired a lot of the sort of like offshoot trends we've seen. The Nancy Meyers style, the Ralph Lauren style, those are offshoots of cottage, because it just lends itself into that, and there's a lot you can do with it. It is very nostalgic feeling, and it definitely can lean more traditional, obviously, as like cottage interiors, but you don't have to make it that thing, right? Depending on the details you bring into it is going to depend on how it leans. What architectural features are in the space? What details are in the kitchen cabinetry and countertop detail? What light fixtures are you using? That can all lead a space to feel very modern, even though you have those cottage details. Now, what I will say about this trend is that you want to lean into quality. Before you do all sorts of other things, quality matters first and foremost, in my opinion, in every design style. Like, that's how you're going to get the best build quality, and it's going to last you a long time. You won't have to redo it in short order because you chose to go with quality first. Cottage style can lean in a lot of different ways and a lot of different details in there, but what I will say is even some of the trends we're seeing now with like the thin rail shaker cabinets and countertop materials, right? The quartzite, the Taj Mahal quartzite everybody is loving. Well, all of that can lean very cottage style, because that is the biggest trend. And that's what you're gonna see going forward more and more of. People are doing even farmhouse, you know, like more authentically looking farmhouse homes that lean into the cottage style. And they're even doing Tudors. I see a lot of people are getting these like historic homes that are colonials and those sorts of styles, and leaning into the cottage style with the interiors. And I think it's fantastic, and it definitely has its place. A lot of the cottage interiors also lean as being like New Tuscan. So I would say New Tuscan and Modern Tuscan are two very different things. New Tuscan reads as being a little bit cottage oriented depending on the materials you use. Maybe you do stacked stone with some smudging, a little bit of plaster work on some of the walls and arches and things. That's gonna lean as being a lot more New Tuscan. But if you do it on a smaller scale, it leans a lot more cottage. It comes down to the quality, and that's what matters, and nailing the design details. And when you're doing that and you want to get them right, intro.co/GarrettLeChic, book a call with me and I'll answer the questions for you. And also check out my Amazon storefront, linked in the description box down below, to shop some of my favorite design details that will elevate your home. Now that we talked about some of the trends and whether or not your home survived it, share with me whether it came out stunning or not, and then let's talk about some of the dated details that people have in their homes, dated trends, dated design details that you should save because everyone secretly loves. Be sure you check it out, and I will see you over there.